Imagine waking up in the middle of a dense jungle. Your left leg is gone. There are no hospitals, no doctors, no anesthesia, no antibiotics, no clean water, nothing but stone tools, fire, and a handful of people trying to keep you alive. By every rule of modern medicine, you should be dead within days. But one man wasn't. He survived. Not for a few weeks, not for a few months. He lived for another 9 years. Which raises an impossible question. Who performed one of the world's earliest successful surgeries? 31,000 years ago. Because the deeper scientists looked into our ancestors, the more terrifying the truth became. The first doctors didn't wear white coats. They wore animal skins. And what they knew about the human body may completely change the way you think about prehistory. For decades, archaeologists believed major surgery was impossible before the rise of civilization. The common story was simple. Hunter-gatherers were tough, but primitive. If they suffered a serious injury, they died, at least. That's what everyone thought. Then everything changed. Deep inside a cave on the island of Borneo, researchers uncovered the skeleton of a young adult buried over 31,000 years ago. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual until they noticed something missing. His lower left leg. The bone hadn't been crushed. It hadn't been ripped apart by an animal. It hadn't healed after an accident. Instead, it had been cut perfectly. The end of the tibia showed a clean surface unlike anything produced by nature. This wasn't an injury. It was surgery. The findings, published in the journal Nature, shocked archaeologists across the globe. Because removing a leg isn't just about making the cut. It's surviving what comes next. A person can bleed to death in minutes. Even if the bleeding stops, infection usually finishes the job. Especially in a hot, humid rainforest. Yet somehow, this patient recovered. His bones reveal that the wound healed completely. No massive infection, no fatal complications. He continued walking, living, and growing older for almost a decade. Think about what that means. Someone knew exactly where to cut. Someone knew how to stop the bleeding. Someone knew how to keep the wound clean long enough for the body to heal. This wasn't luck. It was knowledge. Knowledge that historians never expected to find in the Stone Age. But the biggest mystery wasn't the surgery. It was where that knowledge came from. Today, every surgeon relies on thousands of years of medical research. Stone Age people had none of that. So how do you discover surgery without science? The answer is experience. Generation after generation, people observed wounds. They watched who survived. They learned which plants eased pain, which leaves slowed bleeding, which infections killed, and which treatments gave someone one more chance to live. Every mistake came with an unbearable price. Every successful treatment became priceless knowledge. No books recorded these discoveries. They lived inside people's memories, passed from one generation to the next, one patient at a time. And that was only the beginning. Because surgery wasn't the most unbelievable thing our ancestors accomplished. The medicine they discovered may be even harder to believe. For generations, our collective imagination has been haunted by a very specific image of the Neanderthal. We saw them as brutal, dim-witted cavemen, evolutionary, dead ends who were barely intelligent, enough to sharpen a spear, let alone understand the complexities of the human body. We viewed them as creatures driven entirely by instinct, possessing no capacity for logical thought or scientific inquiry. But over the last 2 decades, that image hasn't just faded. It has completely shattered. Advanced genetic and archaeological research has revealed a startling truth. Neanderthals weren't just surviving nature. They were master students of it. They possessed a sophisticated understanding of their environment that we are only now beginning to grasp. One discovery, made deep in the limestone caves of northern Spain, recently sent shockwaves through the scientific world. The breakthrough wasn't found in a complex tool or a piece of ancient art. It was hiding in plain sight inside the fossilized dental plaque of a Neanderthal who lived nearly 50,000 years ago. Dental plaque might seem like a simple hygiene problem, but once it mineralizes into tartar, it becomes a microscopic time capsule. It traps tiny fragments of everything that passes through the mouth. DNA, bacteria, pollen, and even the chemical signatures of consumed materials. When researchers analyzed the DNA from this specific individual, they made a heartbreaking discovery. This Neanderthal was in constant, agonizing pain. He suffered from a massive dental abscess that had burrowed so deep it was literally eating into his jawbone. To make matters worse, his system was riddled with intestinal parasites. In a world without modern painkillers, every breath, every movement of his mouth must have been a pulsing nightmare of agony. But then, the DNA revealed something impossible. Inside his plaque were traces of poplar bark. This is a revolutionary find. Poplar bark has almost zero nutritional value and is incredibly bitter. Animals won't touch it unless they are starving. So, why was he chewing it? Because poplar bark contains salicylic acid, the natural active ingredient in modern-day aspirin. 50,000 years before the first pharmaceutical laboratory was ever built. This Neanderthal knew exactly which tree held the secret to dulling his pain. He wasn't eating. He was self-medicating. But the discovery went even deeper. The samples also contained traces of Penicillium mold. This is the same fungus from which we derive penicillin, the world's first true antibiotic. While we still debate whether they intentionally cultured the mold or simply knew which environments provided healing, the pattern is undeniable. Our ancestors were the world's first pharmacists. They used multiple tools and demonstrated the cognitive awareness to identify the source of their pain and execute a treatment. If removing a leg with a stone blade sounds like a nightmare, the next procedure will push your imagination to its absolute limit. Picture a member of your tribe lying on the cold, damp floor of a cave. There are no bright surgical lights, no sterilized steel, and absolutely no chemical anesthesia to dull the coming trauma. There is only the flickering light of a torch, a steady hand, and a sharp flintstone. And then, someone begins to drill a hole directly into their living skull. This is trepanation, and it is one of the most ancient and terrifying surgical procedures in human history. For a long time, archaeologists found these skulls and assumed they were looking at victims of war, torture, or ritual sacrifice. They believed no one could possibly survive such a violent violation of the brain's casing. But as we looked closer with modern forensic technology, we saw a miracle. Thousands of ancient skulls found from the Paleolithic to more recent eras in Europe, Asia, Africa, and the success rates are staggering. Why did they do it? The evidence suggests these ancient surgeons were treating real medical issues. They avoided certain areas of the cranium to reduce the likelihood of fatal damage to blood vessels and membranes. Many operations were likely performed to relieve pressure after severe head injuries or to treat fractures. In other cases, they may have been trying to cure chronic blinding migraines or neurological disorders like epilepsy, which they likely viewed as spirits trapped inside the head. In the Stone Age, there was no division between science and spirit. To heal the body was to heal the soul. These practitioners gained their skills through centuries of experimentation and practical experience. But while their stone drills and willow bark aspirin are incredible, the most powerful tool our ancestors ever discovered wasn't an object at all. It was something found in the human heart. The greatest medical breakthrough in human history was never a plant, a knife, or a surgical technique. It was something much simpler, yet far more powerful. It was the decision to care for someone who could no longer care for themselves. In the mountains of northern Iraq lies Shamans Cave. For decades, archaeologists have been uncovering the remains of Neanderthals, who lived here tens of thousands of years ago. One skeleton changed everything. Scientists named him Shanidar 1. His injuries were catastrophic. His right arm was so severely damaged that it was either completely useless or had been partially amputated. He was blind in one eye, suffered from severe arthritis, and could barely walk due to serious leg injuries. In the harsh world of the Pleistocene, this was a death sentence. By all rights, he should have perished in his youth. But he lived. He survived into what was a very old age for a Neanderthal, roughly 35 to 45 years. There is only one explanation. His community refused to abandon him. Someone shared food with him. Someone protected him, and someone helped him survive through years of pain. Compassion became one of humanity's greatest survival tools long before the rise of cities or written language, but knowledge doesn't survive on its own. Long before medical schools and libraries, every tribe depended on a few individuals who carried generations of experience in their minds. We often call them shamans. They were healers, herbalists, midwives, and surgeons all at once. Every root that reduced a fever or leaf that stopped bleeding was discovered at the cost of real lives over countless generations. Today, medicine feels ultra-modern, with sterile operating rooms, robots, and powerful antibiotics. But none of this appeared overnight. Every treatment stands on a foundation built by people whose names we will never know. The first doctors didn't have degrees or wear white coats. They stood by fires, crushed plants in water, sharpened stone blades, and held the hands of the injured, refusing to let those they loved die alone.